I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets, except in amounts and conditions determined to be in the interest of monetary stability and in the best interest of the United States. I am determined that the American dollar must never again be a hostage in the hands of international speculators.
The banks have accounts with the Fed, much the same way that you have an account in a commercial bank. So to lend to a bank, we simply use the computer to mark up the size of the account that they have with the Fed.
States can pay any debt it has because we can always print money to do that. So there is zero probability of default.
The warnings are ridiculous. They are inapplicable to a sovereign nation that issues its own currency. I've had discussions with the rating agencies. Look, these are the same agencies that rated the toxic subprime debt AAA. So, I mean, how do we take them with any level of credibility after that? The fact of the matter is, any country, whether it's the United States, whether it's Japan, whether it's any country that issues its own currency, never has an issue of solvency if its debt is denominated in its own currency. It could always make that payment.
So then what are we worrying about with the U.S. debt? What are we worrying about then? Why can't we just spend into the 14, 15, 16 trillion dollars and continue on this path? What's the problem? What's the big debate about then?
Well, there's no problem. The debate is that people have a misunderstanding of this. They view the reality in a way which is mired in misconception and myth, and this is pervasive from the common person on the street all the way up to the highest levels of policy, including our own president, who goes out there publicly and says we are out of money. That is an impossibility. The United States of America issues the U.S. dollar. It could spend in any amount that it wants to. The only real issue here, the only thing that we have to consider is whether or not that spending at some point leads to an inflation. And the only way that's going to happen is when the government spends beyond the capacity of the economy to produce. In other words, when every single person in this country who is able to work is working, and when all of our resources are used up and you spend beyond that, that's when you have a sustainable inflation. That's the real issue we should be talking about. That's the question we should be asking ourselves. And frankly, with a 9% unemployment rate and millions of people out of work and industrial capacity far below what our potential is and millions of unsold homes and all this other excess capacity that we have, what we should be doing is increasing demand, and the way that we do that in an economy where most people are trying to cut back their debt is for the government to step in and stimulate demand by spending on infrastructure, on education, on healthcare, on basic research and development, on transportation, on alternative energy. These are the things we did in the past. These are the things that created the real capital that was passed along from generation to generation. It's what made this country rich, and it's exactly the thing we're not doing now, because we've become sidetracked on this nonsensical issue of the government of the United States running out of money when it is an impossibility.
The Charter School exists in the 1920s, is still active, is producing a lot of journals and articles and stuff which you never hear of, and which you'll never find a mention in Samuelson or anybody else in any of the schools that we talked about. Why? They actually show that it is possible to have a monetary system that produces full employment and price stability, but at the condition you cross the wire, that the government issues the money. Whew. Taboo, taboo. Nobody talks about it. Okay? The guys are currently living in the University of Missouri of Kansas City, which is equivalent to what the Soviet system used for, I would say, Siberia. You send people there you never want to hear of again, and you make sure that they never can get a feedback to Obama or anybody else. Right? So, it is now possible, the full employment and no inflation. Academically, that school has not been challenged. And from what I study on it, they're right. Okay?